On today's show,
we discuss Westbrook's verbal altercation with Jazz fans and Serge Ibaka snapping on Marquise Chris.
up down on Lou Williams winning sixth man, Kyrie Irving's apology, and birds.
And we debate whether Kemba Walker should stay with the Hornets or bounce in free agency.
It's Tuesday, March 12th. The starter starts now.
Good evening, Sweet World, and welcome to The Starters, presented by Jack Daniels Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey. I'm J.E. Skeets, alongside me as always, Tass Mellis. We got the Aussie Lee Ellis, and over yonder, that's the bearded one, that's Trey Kirby. Hey, yo! Trey, what's up?
I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag The Starters. And guys, last night, the Brooklyn Nets got a big win against the Detroit Pistons. And perhaps the biggest winner on the Nets was their bench, who were going crazy all night, especially after a Spencer Dinwiddie 3 sent them into a Rockets-like sort of synchronized dance. You can tell they haven't necessarily practiced this a ton to keep it together. Nonetheless, a great bench celebration. And it brings us to today's question. What is the best NBA bench celebration? There have been so many, but for me, I always love it when a guy celebrates for the wrong team, like Hasheem Thabeet seeing Gerald Green's alley-oop, who way back when stood up to celebrate, only to realize, oh right, I played for the Rockets, not the Nets. But that's a visceral reaction. You see Gerald Green get up like that, you want to get up too. But we want to hear from you, so let us know on Twitter, what is the best NBA bench celebration? Send them to us at hashtag The Starters. We'll hear from you later.
All right, get those tweets in. On tonight's show, we're going to talk about Lou Williams. We're going to talk about Kyrie Irving. We're going to talk about Kemba Walker. But first, last night, Russell Westbrook was caught on tape threatening Jazz fans who Russ said directed a racial taunt at him.
Stop playing. I swear to God. I swear to God. You up. You and your wife. You up. I promise you. Everything I love. Everything I love. I promise you.
Well, today, the Utah Jazz hit that fan with a lifetime ban. The team's statement, released just a few hours ago, reads, quote, "The Utah Jazz and Larry H. Miller Group announced today a permanent ban of the fan who engaged in the inappropriate interaction with OKC's Russell Westbrook last night. The organization conducted an investigation through video review and eyewitness accounts. The ban is based on excessive and derogatory verbal abuse directed at a player during the game that violated the NBA Code of Conduct. We also just learned that Westbrook has been fined by the NBA $25,000 for profanity and his threatening language." A lot to unpack here. Do you think the league and the Jazz and everybody sort of got this right, how they're handling it?
The Jazz acted swiftly, firmly, and correctly, in my opinion. You got to go after him. You can't just let a person say whatever the heck they want because they've got a ticket in their pocket. You have to act decently. I kind of wish something happened last night where he was kicked out immediately, so the fans around him and Russell Westbrook didn't have to hear that. But if Russell Westbrook doesn't stand up and do that, this fan probably gets away with it. This fan probably can enter that arena and can probably say more racist, probably homophobic, xenophobic. I'm assuming he said more than just what that one line that we heard to get that ban. And it was cool, actually. I just saw this report as well that Tony Jones of The Athletic said that the Jazz players sat down with Utah Jazz president Steve Starks and aired out what they thought about the whole incident. We saw Donovan Mitchell come out with a public statement today. We saw Thabo Sefolosha come out with a public statement today. And they sided with Russell Westbrook. So it's cool that there's sort of a band of brothers situation here as well, that listen, we could go to another arena and we want to be treated fairly as well.
I think they send a pretty strong message to the Jazz that anyone else who thinks they can get away with it is going to get banned for life, which is the way to do it. But they said they found some more video evidence. So maybe someone else on their phone, on their camera phone, caught this fan saying what he said and doing what he was doing. And if that's the case, then this is absolutely the right move by the Utah Jazz. Like, there's no place for that in the league. You can go to a game, you can heckle, you can have some fun. But if you're crossing that line, and we all know what that line is, it's not like, oh, maybe this is okay with some fans or not. We all know what that line is. If the fan crossed it, then I think the ban is fair and reasonable.
Yeah, the Jazz did their due diligence going and talking to players from both teams, talking to people in the arena, seeing all kinds of video that they can see. And then, like we've seen Michelle Roberts advocate for, we saw Russell Westbrook advocate for, even before this, It was a zero-tolerance policy. Basically, the Mavs superfan Don Knobler got suspended for the end of the season earlier this year. We've seen what appears to be worse from this Jazz fan, and now he's banned for life. Not just from games, but anything going on at Vivint Smart Home Arena. It's a really smart move by the Jazz, and basically what it happened to happen.
And Westbrook after the game,
Yeah.
he was saying, Westbrook, talking to the media, he didn't take questions after the game, but he had a statement himself of what went down. And he said, there's got to be consequences. And he said this a couple times now. There has to be consequences for a fan crossing the line, talking about my family, something racial, whatever. That line, like you're saying, Lee, we have a pretty good idea what that is. And something has to happen to these fans. They can't just get off. And I think that's why he also said, like, look, I would have said it again. Now, he got dinged $25,000. He maybe said a little too much in terms of his profanity and the threatening to the guy and his girlfriend. And he said he would do it again because I think his whole thing is like, I got to make this an issue for something to happen here. For a guy like that to get the permanent ban. And in this case, that's what happened. So he made his point in a way.
And it had become sort of an ongoing issue in Utah. Russell Westbrook has had issues with players. And throughout the last 24 hours since the incident, you've heard a lot of former players say it is tough in Utah.
It's even in Donovan Mitchell's statement. He says, this is not the first time something like this has happened in our arena. And that's a Jazz face of the franchise calling out Jazz fans to be better.
Yeah, so big kudos to Donovan Mitchell. I think that was all sort of part and parcel of the ban. It wasn't just Russ who needed to stand up. Again, Russ doesn't stand up, nothing happens. But probably Donovan Mitchell standing up, Thabo Sefolosha also speaking out against fans in their own arena. So kudos to everybody for stepping up to a guy who, in one instance, said, "I didn't say anything," and then really backpedaled. And obviously,
And then disappeared
lots
from
of-
Twitter in a hurry, too. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on. We had another incident in the NBA last night. This one involving the Raptors center Serge Ibaka and Cavs forward Marquise Chris. They were ejected for fighting. Today, the NBA hit them with suspensions. 3 games for Serge, 1 game for Chris. According to the league's release, Ibaka was given 3 games for instigating the fight, throwing a punch, and his prior fighting history in the NBA. Chris got the 1 game for just throwing a punch back. What did you think about this? Serge getting 3 games, Chris getting 1, too extreme, not right. What's everyone's vibe?
No, that's right. I think Serge Ibaka, he instigated the event there, and he really went at Chris. Like, something happened. They were kind of wrestling there for a loose ball. And then Serge just gets up and goes at him. And that
bounced up. And
yeah,
then
you don't
choking,
often see that. Usually they're sort of, the arms get locked up and then maybe someone throws a punch. But Chris is walking off, and now he said something, but I mean, come on, Serge is a veteran
say
of this
something
league.
all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Serge is a veteran who's been around a long time. But he does deserve more games because of his history, because he has had a bit of a history of throwing punches at people. So he needs to also be sent a message that he's got to stop doing that.
Yeah, I kind of thought Ibaka would get more like 5 games because we just saw Brandon Ingram for the first time in his career. He gets into an altercation on the court. He got 4 games. Serge Ibaka started this. He accelerated it. He finished it. It was basically all Serge Ibaka. Like we said, he's got the prior history. That's why he got 3 games. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was 5, but really, that's picking nits.
Yeah, Serge Ibaka seems like such a mild-mannered guy.
Yeah.
In interviews, so soft-spoken. He's got a rage inside him that comes out quite often. We've seen it a few times throughout his career. This is his most recent Raptors career with UFC heavyweight James Johnson there, with Robin Lopez.
Now, at least in that one, Robin Lopez kind of,
Yeah.
instigates that a little bit more. But
He's raised some fists with Blake Griffin. He's done some things.
The 3-game suspension is going to cost Ibaka nearly $450,000. Chris, $22,000 for the 1 game. Just quickly about Chris. You're fine with that, him getting the 1 game? Some people say, what did he do? He's defending himself.
yeah, he should be
fair
allowed to defend himself. But once you are throwing a punch, I think you deserve a game.
Seems to be the case in the NBA. Let's hear from you guys. Jump on Twitter, #TheStarters. Both of those very, very wild incidents in the NBA last night. Did the league and the teams get it right? When we come back, we're going to discuss Kyrie's latest apology and Lou Williams, sweet Lou, making super sub history. Don't go anywhere.
The Starters is presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey.
We are into the up-down report. Let's see those thumbs on Twitter, #TheStarters. Thumbs up or thumbs down? First one. Last night, Lou Williams became the NBA's all-time leader in points scored off the bench as his Clips beat the Celtics 140-115. Sweet Lou surpassed Hornets legend Del Curry with about 10 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter with a driving layup. He is the NBA's super sub. You see it there. Lou finished with 34 points on the night. He's now averaging 20.2 points per game off the pine this season. Guys, are you up or down on Lou Williams' chances of winning another 6th Man of the Year? Is it happening?
Oh,
Wow, everybody.
Lock it in.
You think so?
Yeah, he's the second guy ever to average 20 points a game off the bench. The other guy to do it was Lou Williams last year when he averaged 22 off the bench and won Sixth Man of the Year. Skeets, you pulled a smart move taking Lou Williams in the preseason as your Sixth Man of the Year. He's the new Jamal Crawford. Just pick him until he doesn't win it.
Yeah, it's hard to go against him. I will give some love to Spencer Dinwiddie, though, for the Brooklyn Nets. If he doesn't get injured,
Yep.
I think he's in that conversation. I don't think he can beat Lou for it, but he's had a fantastic bounce-back season. And there's a lot of guys, I think, maybe looking at Lou and Jamal Crawford and saying, you can make a pretty good career if you accept that role and adopt it really well. So I think that's a good sign because so many players don't want to be a six-man, don't want to come off the bench. But you see guys having success like this, and it could really help out other teams.
There are other guys having good seasons like Derrick Rose and Montrezl Harrell, but not like 20 points in 26 minutes per game.
Crazy.
Those are wild, wild numbers, and he leads the league in shots per minute. that is a six-man.
Yeah.
That personifies what you want out of a six-man.
And he closes a lot of their games and gets them to win a lot of the times. All right, I agree with you guys. Had him in the preseason, sticking with Lou right now. Moving on to our next one here, though. In an exclusive interview with Yahoo Sports' Chris Haynes, Celtics guard Kyrie Irving opened up about his rocky relationship with the media this season, admitting he's had some missteps. Yes, quote, "The way I've handled things, it hasn't been perfect. I made a lot of mistakes that I take full responsibility for. I haven't said the right things all the time. I think because of how fixated I was on trying to prove other people wrong, I got into a lot of habits that were bad, like reading stuff and reacting emotionally." So, are you up or down
Too
on
much reading.
Kyrie's latest, you're telling me, Kyrie's latest apology? Up or down?
I'm up on it. I will focus on that reading part because it's like Kevin Durant, who people have lumped him in with. They're reading too many comments and they're reacting and they're on burner accounts. And I care about what people think. So I feel what he's feeling. He cares about what people think too much. Stop the reading. Just stop reading. Not reading in general.
Yeah, read books
reading
and magazines
about
and stuff, yeah.
people
Read books,
like
not
us,
comments.
like basketball talk.
Yes, I think, I hope this is the last apology we see from him this season because he called up LeBron, apologised to him, now he's apologising for this. All right, enough.
That's why I said latest apology.
Yeah, exactly. Just get on with the game now. It's fine.
What, you don't like people saying sorry to each other when they make a mistake? This
not
is
all the
Kyrie
time.
trying to grow. He's saying, I made mistakes. I need to be better. Here's how I'm going to be better. I think it's a good sign for the Celtics. The guy's learning how to be a leader. It's been a rocky road so far, but he's on the right path.
Justin Bieber wrote a song about it last year. We've had enough sorries. Let's move on.
Al Horford did say that Kyrie was
Last year.
instrumental.
When was it?
Yeah, I
2
was
years
gonna say,
ago?
that
Few
must have
years
been
ago.
2 years ago. It's a great song, I guess.
It's too late to say sorry?
Yes.
That's the one.
I
man.
know the song you're talking about.
He's not in the video. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah, it's a good video.
Wow.
What I was going to say is Al Horford said Kyrie was instrumental in this crazy team plane ride that really brought the team together. And, you know, he really spoke up and tried to, like, own being a leader. So he is trying to, like, learn from his mistakes here and is admitting as such here to Chris Haynes. It's a great interview.
And they said he was the DJ. He might have played Justin Bieber's Sorry. It's
Wow.
possible.
He
wow.
probably played Chicago, so it's hard for me to say I'm sorry.
It's full circle. All right,
They
final
probably
one.
didn't play Sorry on the plane.
Final one here. This one we got to get in because it's really, really weird. Over the weekend, Atlanta rookie Trae Young confirmed his fear of birds. "Yeah, I'm super afraid of birds," Trae told Hoops Hype. "I really can't stand birds. Any bird freaks me out." Now, Trae did note that it was pretty ironic. He plays for the Atlanta Hawks. But, are you guys up or down on birds? What we got here?
What do we got?
Yeah.
Why are you down on birds?
Well, so in Australia, they have the magpies, and during swooping season...
It's like a crow?
Yeah, it's like it, yeah.
Yeah.
The swooping season, it's very dangerous.
Like they'll attack your...
Yeah, they'll
swooping
attack
season.
you. I've been hit a few times, yeah. Like, they leave a scar on your head. Now, maybe I'm unfair to all birds to lump them in there. But I'm telling you, man, magpies are scary.
All right.
The only reason I'm down on birds, I do love birds. We tried to raise a family of 4 last year on our deck. 2 of them died before they got out of the nest. The 2 that lived, one flew in a dog park, immediately got eaten. The other flew into a wall and died. I'm never trying to raise birds again. Too hard.
Are you pro bird?
I think I'm pro bird. I'm not really sure. I like the fact that he's admitting it. They're different than us. I understand. They can be a little freaky, like the magpie.
Yeah, man, you want to watch out,
Swooping
man.
season.
Dangerous. I thought that was a beef pie, like a beef patty. It's a bird.
Yeah, it is.
Does the magpie think your hair's like a nest? I mean, it's luxurious.
They just go crazy in like September and October.
Oh, yeah, let's zoom in on that magpie
They'd
nest.
want to land in that, wouldn't they? It looks nice.
Birds would have survived in that. for sure.
All right, we got to take a break. Lots more still to come. When we come back, we'll get into the Eastern Conference playoff race and whether Kemba Walker should look to leave Charlotte this free agency. I'm going to apologize to Hornets fans in advance. Back with the starters starters. Time for a little what you got. Trey, take it away.
Last night, the Detroit Pistons went into Brooklyn with a 5-game win streak, but they left with a loss as 7 different Nets scored in double figures. The win put the Nets a half game up on the Pistons for 6th in the Eastern Conference, and we got about a month of basketball left to play. You see the standings there, guys. Who is getting the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference? Is it going to be the Nets or the Pistons?
Wow, this is tough.
You want to get the 6th seed because you got a better chance of facing the Pacers. Although the Pacers are tough out, they don't have Victor Oladipo. That's the best matchup that you can find in the top quarter or the top half of the bracket there. But I think the Nets are going to drop back to 7th. They've got a real tough road trip coming up. They actually have the same amount of road games as the Pistons, but they're going on 7 of them right now, and the easiest game here is the Lakers. The rest of them, extremely tough. So I would go Pistons in that 6th spot.
Yeah.
7th spot, probably the Nets facing the Raptors.
I agree, but the Nets do have the tiebreaker
Yeah,
in that series.
because they're done now. Nets have it 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah.
So if the Nets can have a decent road trip there, maybe split it, then it does put them in a pretty strong position. But I do agree. I think the Pistons probably will just get it because I just think that's going to be a tough one for the Nets to get out of alive.
Yeah, this was a great win for the Nets last night. Don't get me wrong. I was a little disappointed. I was very excited for this game. The Pistons have been playing exceptionally strong basketball, winning 12 of 14 heading into this game. And then they just put up a dud. No one could hit a shot for the Pistons, and the Nets ran away with it. I'm torn on it. I start to believe in one of these teams, and they sort of let me down. And then I'm gone, and suddenly they go on a run. I go back and forth. But I guess when I look at that Nets schedule, that tough 7-game road trip, I also lean towards Pistons getting the 6th seed. But as Lee says, the Nets have a tiebreaker. Trey, what's the answer?
We are all in agreement here. The Pistons have an easier schedule down the stretch, so let's go with the Pistons. But moving on, Lordy. Kemba Walker scored 40, that's right, for the 5th time this season. Kemba went for 40 or more in a game, and for the 4th time this season, the Hornets lost one of those games. Loss put the Hornets a game and a half out of the playoffs. Kemba's a free agent this summer, so the free Kemba contingent was going crazy last night. Guys, what should Kemba do this summer? Should he stay or should he go?
Oh, man.
Gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to go and try somewhere else.
He has stated multiple times, some desire to stay in Charlotte and try and build a winner there. But you wouldn't knock him if he looked elsewhere in free agency.
He's been incredibly loyal to them. The franchise has been incredible to him. The fans love him, but he's just not going to win there, and he's not going to compete for a championship. I think he has to go and try somewhere else, and I don't think the fans would actually hold it against him at this point. He's won 3 playoff games in his years there. He's been an all-star a couple of times. He's been a very, very good player.
He scores 25 a game.
Exactly, and you look at these games like last night and you think, man, if he had some better talent around him, who knows how good he could be in a situation like that. So I just think it's time for a fresh start.
Yeah, I think the timing is bad if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan, that his contract comes up now while they continue to lose and there's not a great outlook for the roster around him. He's been an all-star 3 times, and that's more than the playoff appearances that he's had in Charlotte, only twice there. It just doesn't bode well. At this point, this is the perfect time for him to leave. It would be nice if he could stay, but I highly doubt it.
There are rumors floating around over the last couple of days, too, that the Mavericks are very interested in trying to acquire Kemba Walker in free agency, pair him with Luka, pair him with the Kristaps, who is also who's the second best player on the Hornets? I mean,
Who has been
supposed to be
second
Batum.
it's sometimes Jeremy Lamb,
Yeah.
it's sometimes Marvin Williams, the odd time it's Nicholas Batum.
Yeah, and none of those guys are
that's
all
what I'm
that
getting
good.
at.
I mean, they're good sort of complementary
Sure.
pieces, but you need that second or third star around Kemba for him to really shine. And they just haven't been able to do it. They've tried. I mean, they got Dwight, didn't work out. They threw all that money at Batum, didn't work out.
Yep.
They've been loyal to the guys they've drafted, but they just haven't been able to find that player that is what Kemba needs.
And that could be what does, though, keep Kemba in Charlotte, is more money. Sticking with the Hornets.
Sure.
But if he does want to
wants the
try
money,
and win
yeah.
a playoff series, he might look elsewhere. Trey, so we're taking him leaving. What's the answer to this?
I think he should stay just so he can maybe get a statue there in Charlotte. He's the best Hornet ever. I don't
That's
want to
true.
see him leave already. But moving on, best of the week isn't a real segment. We still got 2 candidates. The first is the Lakers' Andre Ingram, one of last season's feel-good stories. Just got called up again while surrounded by his South Bay Laker teammates. Our second candidate, Chris Paul, who chased down a loose ball that found its way to Iman Shumpert's daughter, who retrieved it, gave it to CP3, and then gave him a fist pound. Very sweet, guys. What was the more heartwarming moment? Andre Ingram or CP3? What you got?
Lovely moments. I'm going to go with Andre Ingram, though. It's cool to have a guy with gray hair in the league. And he's a career G Leaguer. He leads the most games played in the G League of anyone. it's nice to just get him up there, and Lakers fans can stop complaining. If we talk about the Lakers, it's going to be about Andre Ingram and not LeBron James and all their failings.
Yeah, but going up against a little girl like
Yeah.
that who
I
has
know.
the
How do
ball
I-
and then throws out the dap, I mean.
And then she went right back to snacking. That was my favorite thing.
Yeah.
She gave the ball, she did the
Yeah.
fist bump, and then she's like, I'm going right back to the
too.
popcorn.
Beautiful chest pass there. Very fundamental.
Very solid play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm only
Loves the
knocking.
stones,
I'm
too.
only knocking the Andre Ingram because it's the second time. The sequel is very, very rarely better than the first movie. So I'm skeptical. He's probably playing his first game tonight,
yeah.
against the Bulls. So we'll see. Maybe he goes for 40, and then I'm saying something different tomorrow.
Hey, if
but
the Lakers want a feel-good story, give me a chance, man. Sign me to a 10-day.
he can shoot.
Yeah.
This guy's a shooter.
No gray hair though.
Well, there's 1 or 2 in there.
There might be a magpie or two in there. All right, what's the answer to this, Trey?
Oh, come on, guys. How can you choose? The answer is both.
Oh!
These were both great moments. Good for the old people, good for the young people.
Didn't see that coming right after the jump. We'll go back to the old people. Lily hits us with a very solid play.
Very heartwarming, though, this play.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Can't wait. Come on back. Tonight on TNT, players only doubleheader. Spurs and Mavericks starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by the Wolves and the Nuggets. Okay, we asked you, what's the best bench celebration? You hit us up on Twitter, hashtag the starters. Trey, you got some good answers.
Oh, yeah, the people sent in the classics, like the Clippers bench after the DeAndre Jordan dunk. They end up on the floor. They're going crazy in that one. That was awesome. I'm not sure what the Kings are celebrating here, but that's a pretty nice collection of dancers.
Yep.
Also, this classic from
yeah.
Jimmy Butler, the stare down after a Doug McDermott dunk. It's weird remembering what plays these come from. Like this Lakers reaction was on a Shannon Brown block. But my favorite answer, Tim Duncan reacting on the bench. Cool. Rock and roll.
He was pumped. All right, tonight's pick and play. Blazers Clippers on League Pass. Trey, the only one taking Portland on the road. Everybody else taking the Clippers at home. I could use this win. I am falling behind already here in the month of March. All right, Lily. Very solid play.
Yeah, we're going out to Brooklyn for a beautiful boomerang here from D'Angelo Russell. Look at this one. It's a bit of a cross-country boomerang, too. Listen where it starts, and it goes back there again.
Whoa!
Finishes not just a boomerang, a beautiful... That's what I call a very solid play.
Very solid indeed. Also solid, the Drop podcast, which we put up earlier today. Talked in great detail about the Russell Westbrook Jazz fans incident, Serge and Chris. So much more. Stepped on the beach to read your tweets and emails. So go download and give it a listen. That's it for us. 10 before tip coming up next, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, folks. And wanted to give a shout out and a happy birthday to somebody who's all very dear to our hearts. Canadian social media influencer extraordinaire. It's Vernon Chang, aka Mo Verney, aka Mokio, aka Momo.
It's key to me. Brace the night, people.